Hello again. So, have you got your single most important word? Fantastic. I hope it's something that feels really meaningful to you. Now, typically, when I'm working with folks on exercises like this, and we're looking at words they have chosen, something always tends to happen, and that is those words have a very similar feel and a very similar theme. And what I mean by that is that they are all typically quite aspirational words. Things like being trustworthy, being valuable, being knowledgeable, being expert, being authentic, being inspiring. They are really brilliant words, and they're words that really come with a stretch and an aspirational quality. But that's not their only challenge. The other challenge is typically they're not the type of words that we would very easily be able to go around telling other people that we are. Knowledgeable, I guess, is one of the exceptions there. You'll quite often see on websites, businesses and individuals indeed, highlighting how knowledgeable they are. That one seems okay, but can you imagine if you were reading something where a person kept telling you over and over again how authentic they were, how trustworthy they were? Especially if this is an individual rather than a business, you might be beginning to wonder, why are you telling me this? How friendly I am, how caring I am, how kind I am. These are the kind of qualities that we typically don't go around telling other people we are. And that's because they're not the kind of qualities other people are necessarily just going to nod and accept. They are the kind of qualities that need to be felt. They need to be experienced. And I'm pretty much sure that whatever you've chosen will be one of those kind of words, something so meaningful that we can't just go around telling other people that's what we are. We will in fact need to do something else. We'll need to show them. And here is where those three words you've chosen, and specifically the one that came first, start to become a bit like your brand guideline. They start to give you some structure, something to aim for. Because the next part of working this exercise forward will be to take that word that you've chosen and begin to start to ask yourself, how would I be able to demonstrate that, be that, if you like, in such a way as the people around me, the people I really want to describe me like that, are in no doubt, none whatsoever, that that is what they are experiencing. And here is where we begin to start to think, what does something like kindness, for example, something like friendliness, something like expertise or inspiration or passion, what does that look like? Because if we know what it looks like, we can begin to start to ask ourselves, how can I make sure that's what folks are seeing in me? Now, of course, we have to be careful here. This isn't just about patting ourselves on the back and saying, oh, that's fine, I do that from time to time, because I'm sure you probably already do. This is about taking ourselves one step further forward, growing ourselves just that little bit more and saying, how do I make sure that this isn't just something people experience some of the time, but that actually this is something people will experience when they're with me, when they're working with me, or when they're out and about with me. They're going to experience all of the time, because this is part of who I am, and therefore it is going to be available. It is going to be visible at all times. Here we begin to start to see our journey. Because typically, most of us are pretty good at being what we'd like to be, who we'd like to be, when things are going well. You know, when everything's fine, we've had enough sleep, we're not hungry, we're not tired, we're not grumpy, the environment around us is such that we're feeling happy and content, and therefore able to be our best selves. But that's not how we spend all our lives, is it? Quite a lot of the time there are going to be constraints, there are going to be challenges, there are going to be issues, there are going to be things that are applying pressure one way or another, either to us or the situation that we're finding ourselves in. And this typically is when all those great words get chucked slightly out of the window because now we need to be something else. We're managing the situation, and perhaps those much sought after things aren't visible right now. People are seeing something else instead, and maybe on occasion that's not something we're very happy with either. So here's how we begin to grow ourselves. We begin to ask, how might I be my word, the one I've chosen, not just when things are going well, but actually leaning now into some of those more challenging spaces where maybe things aren't going quite so well, where maybe I'm not quite so good, or I'm feeling a little bit more stressed or anxious, or I'm rather tired, or I'm very, very hungry, or actually the situation itself is quite challenging. What would it look like there? What would kindness look like there? What would inspiring look like there? What would knowledgeable look like there? What would authentic look like there? Now, this is probably a question you're going to need to go away and think about, probably because you've never thought about it before, and that's grand, because that means you're beginning to grow into a new space. Maybe you don't actually know, and you might want to go away and explore what that might look like. I'd encourage you there to think, is there anyone that you're aware of, either in your world or someone that you see on a screen, and one of your influencers, for example, who does that in a way that you still recognize the kindness, the authenticity, the inspiration, the passion, even when that person's perhaps not in quite such a good headspace, or they're not having the best of times. What do they do? What do they say? How do they behave? That allows you to still see that brand value even when all is not quite so well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with borrowing ideas, trying them on for size, and keep going with those, because sooner or later they will actually become your own. They become part of who you are. Sometimes, to begin with, we have to borrow from others. We have to try new stuff for ourselves. It might feel a little bit clunky, a little bit awkward. So I'm going to leave you with this thought before you go away and have a think about that. I'm going to leave you with the idea that whatever it is that you are thinking, whatever it is you might like to explore, it's just one first step to allowing you to ask yourself in any situation, is what I am doing, is what I am saying, is how I am being, taking me closer to becoming my more authentic self, the brand I'd like to be, in which case you're probably on the right track, or is it taking me one step or several steps further away, in which case maybe it's not the right choice. Maybe I should pause, reset, think, and then move forward, doing the thing that is most likely to have me enhance what I'm trying to do and not accidentally damage it. So good luck. Enjoy taking your first steps into this sort of place, and we'll catch up tomorrow for our final session, which looks at how we use everything we've learned so far to begin to start to put together a map that's going to allow you to work forward.